My entire family skipped my nursing graduation to attend my younger sister Monica's wedding. 7 months later, Monica gave birth 9 weeks early at the hospital where I worked. When she saw me outside the neonatal intensive care unit in navy blue scrubs, she grabbed my wrist and whispered, "Rachel, please tell them how to save my baby." The last message she had sent me before my graduation said, "It's only a ceremony. Stop making everything about you." As I looked through the glass at her tiny daughter, surrounded by monitors and tubes, I understood that my family finally needed the very profession they had treated as insignificant. But helping an innocent child did not mean pretending those 4 empty graduation seats had never existed. I was 38 when I entered nursing school. Monica had always been the daughter who filled every room. She had been a dancer, a homecoming queen, and the center of every family celebration. I was the dependable one. I scheduled our parents' appointments, remembered prescription refills, and left work whenever someone needed a ride. For 15 years, I worked as a receptionist at a medical clinic because it offered stable hours and health insurance. Whenever I mentioned returning to school, Mom would say, "Someone has to be realistic, Rachel." Monica changed careers 3 times, and every new beginning came with balloons, restaurant dinners, and proud photographs on the refrigerator. My decision to become a nurse was described as a midlife reinvention phase. I applied after helping Dad recover from heart surgery. One of his nurses watched me organize his medication schedule and asked why I had never considered nursing. I told her I was probably too old to start over. She looked at me and said, "You're going to turn 40 either way. You may as well turn 40 doing something you were built to do." I carried those words through anatomy exams, 12-hour clinical rotations, and nights when I studied at the kitchen table until 2 in the morning. I continued working 4 days a week and used almost all my savings for tuition. I missed holidays, canceled vacations, and learned to function on coffee and determination. My family said they were proud, but their pride rarely required them to show up. The graduation date was announced 11 months in advance. I sent my parents and Monica a screenshot before the university had even printed the invitations. Mom replied with 4 heart emojis. Dad wrote, "Wouldn't miss it." Monica promised to help me choose a dress. Her wedding was scheduled for 2 weeks after my ceremony, so there was no conflict. I reserved 4 seats together near the center aisle, 1 for Mom, 1 for Dad, 1 for Monica, and 1 for her fiancé, Gavin. For months, those 4 seats became the picture in my mind whenever school felt impossible. I imagined seeing my family standing and cheering when my name was called. 3 months before graduation, Monica called a family meeting at our parents' house. She arrived carrying a thick wedding binder filled with fabric samples and vendor contracts. Her venue had received a cancellation and offered her a discounted Saturday date. It was the same Saturday as my graduation. I reminded her immediately. Monica barely looked up from her seating chart. "Your ceremony is in the morning," she said. "My wedding is in the afternoon." The university was 90 miles from the venue, and guests were expected to arrive by 2. Attending both was impossible. I waited for my parents to tell her to keep the original date. Instead, Mom started calculating hotel deposits. Dad said changing plans again would inconvenience Gavin's relatives. Monica touched my arm and said, "You'll walk across a stage for 20 seconds. I'm getting married once," I answered. "I'm graduating from nursing school once." Dad sighed as though I had created the problem. Mom suggested I ask someone to record my ceremony. Monica said they could mention my graduation during her rehearsal dinner, provided there was time after the speeches. I left the 4 tickets on my parents' kitchen table and went home. For the next several weeks, I hoped someone would reconsider. No one did. Mom asked me to stop mentioning the conflict because Monica was under pressure. Dad offered to take me to lunch sometime after the honeymoon. Monica sent a message to the family group saying her wedding represented the beginning of a new chapter for all of us. When I replied that my graduation represented one too, she messaged me privately. "It's only a ceremony, Rachel. Stop making everything about you." I read the message 3 times before putting my phone away. On graduation morning, I dressed alone in the small apartment I had barely managed to keep while paying tuition. I pinned the nursing school emblem beneath the collar of my white uniform and carried the 4 unused tickets in my handbag. During the processional, I searched the audience even though I already knew what I would see. The seats I had reserved remained empty. A volunteer eventually folded them up so another family could move closer together. When my name was called, the father of one of my classmates stood and cheered because he knew my family had chosen not to come. My clinical instructor fastened the nursing pin to my uniform and quietly said, "Those empty seats do not measure your worth." Afterward, my classmates posed with parents holding flowers and handmade signs. A stranger took one photograph of me near the building entrance. At almost the same moment, Monica posted a picture from the bridal suite. Mom, Dad, Monica, and Gavin were raising champagne glasses beneath the caption, "Nothing matters more than family." That sentence hurt more than the empty chairs. They had not forgotten me. They had made a calculation, and I had been the easier person to disappoint. At 9 that evening, Mom sent me a blurred photograph of the wedding cake and wrote, "Hope your thing went well." Monica contacted me the next afternoon with a picture of herself in her wedding dress. "You would have loved it," she wrote. I answered, "I would have loved having my family at my graduation." She did not reply. 6 weeks later, I passed the nursing licensing examination on my first attempt. I accepted a residency position in the neonatal intensive care unit at St. Anne's Regional Medical Center. The work frightened me at first. Every movement mattered around babies who weighed less than some bags of flour. I learned how to remain calm when monitors sounded, how to explain complicated equipment to terrified parents, and how to offer hope without making promises no one could guarantee. My family responded to the news with the same heart emojis they had sent when I first announced my graduation date. 7 months after Monica's wedding, my phone rang at 2:13 in the morning. Mom was crying so hard that I could barely understand her. Monica had gone into premature labor at 31 weeks. An emergency delivery had been performed, and her daughter, Ava, could not breathe without assistance. They were at St. Anne's. I was already near the end of a night shift. When I entered the family consultation area, Mom rushed toward me. "Thank God," she said. "You can find out what is really happening." Dad asked whether I could access Ava's medical record. Gavin wanted me to persuade the doctor to allow everyone into the unit. I told them I could not open records simply because we were related, and I would not interfere with the team assigned to Ava. Dad's expression hardened. "This is your sister," he said. "Family has to come before hospital rules." I looked directly at him. "Hospital rules are protecting her baby. You don't get to respect my profession only when you think it gives you special treatment." Monica was sitting in a wheelchair outside the unit, pale and trembling. When she saw me, she held out both hands. "They keep saying respiratory distress and possible transfer," she whispered. "Rachel, please tell them how to save my baby." For 1 second, I remembered the empty seats, the folded programs, and the photograph declaring that nothing mattered more than family. Then I looked through the glass at Ava. "I'm not part of her treatment team," I told Monica. "I can't promise you an outcome. But I can help you understand what the doctors are saying, and I can help you ask the right questions." Monica began to cry. "After everything I did, why would you help me?" I answered. "Because Ava didn't leave those seats empty." Neonatologist explained that Ava needed to be transferred to a children's hospital with a higher-level specialist unit. Monica panicked when she heard the word transfer. She believed moving the baby meant the doctors had given up. I sat beside her and translated the medical language into plain words. I explained that the transfer was not abandonment. It meant access to specialists and equipment Ava might need. Monica signed the consent, and the transport team left 40 minutes later. For the next 3 weeks, I visited the children's hospital on my days off. I never pretended to be Ava's nurse, and I never used my position to bypass the staff. I helped Monica write down questions, understand test results, and sleep for an hour without believing every alarm meant the worst. Ava slowly became stronger. One evening, while Monica and I sat beside the incubator, she said, "The venue offered me 3 available dates." I turned toward her. She stared at her hands. "The date I chose was the only one that conflicted with your graduation. Gavin asked me twice whether we should keep the original wedding date. I told him no." "Why?" "Because everyone had spent 3 years talking about how hard you were working. Mom kept telling people you were going to be a nurse. I wanted one event that belonged completely to me. I knew that if your graduation happened first, people would talk about you at my wedding." Her confession did not shock me. What shocked me was how small the reason sounded inside a room containing a premature baby fighting for every ounce of strength. "You were afraid my achievement would reduce yours," I said. "So you made sure the family proved I mattered less." Monica nodded, tears running down her face. "I'll continue helping you understand Ava's care," I told her. "But helping your child doesn't erase what you did. An emergency is not an apology, and my compassion is not permission to pretend my graduation never happened." Our parents apologized next. At first, Mom called it an unfortunate scheduling conflict. I told her it stopped being a conflict when everyone decided only one daughter deserved an audience. Dad said they had always trusted me to be strong. "You used my strength as an excuse to neglect me," I answered. For once, neither of them argued. Ava came home after 56 days. 4 months later, my hospital held a ceremony for nurses completing their first year of specialty residency. I reserved 2 seats. Mom and Dad arrived 40 minutes early and sat in them without asking for forgiveness again. Monica stayed home because Ava had a fever, but she sent a package. Inside was a framed copy of the photograph the stranger had taken at my graduation. Beneath it, she had written, "I should have been standing behind the camera." I can't refill those empty seats, but I will never again pretend they were empty by accident. I placed the photograph beside my nursing pin. Monica and I did not become best friends overnight. Trust returned slowly through actions rather than speeches. But my family stopped calling me difficult whenever I established a boundary. They finally learned that being dependable did not mean being disposable. My graduation had lasted less than 2 hours, just as Monica had said, but what happened around it revealed a pattern that had shaped my entire life. When her daughter needed the profession she had dismissed, I did not use my knowledge to punish her. I used it responsibly and refused to let my kindness become another excuse for my family to avoid accountability. And if you think this betrayal was painful, watch the next story about the sister who secretly moved their mother into assisted living and listed her $485,000 house for sale.